As I'm listening to you talk about your approach, I think maybe your superpower is in building team and leading. So when did you first begin to develop your kind of approach to work?
One of my closest friends and mentors, she's now a sitting judge in the Eastern District of New York. She was strict. She wielded authority. She was very senior associate then. She brought in a really strong work ethic, important to have some structure to the team, but also we're all in it together. If I was there working through the middle of the night, she was there working through the middle of the night. I learned that from her is I'm one of you. Yes, I've had many more years at this and I can make the calls on these things. I mean, you need to respect me, but we're all part of this. Another thing that's really important in building good teams is keeping them informed. Even if I'm giving a summer associate an assignment who doesn't need to know all of the case background in order to do that assignment, I find it helpful to give them more context. People will do better work and they'll be more invested. I want to create a team where everybody cares. And in order to do that, you need to share information and not just keep things at the senior level. And it doesn't mean inviting everyone into every call, but it means once in a while, like having a weekly or biweekly team meeting to give people updates, give them the opportunity to tell you what's going on, to have other people hear what's going on. If you don't do that, then people are going to be very task-oriented, not invested, and not perform well.
At the end of the day, we're humans. Yes, we're working for Level Legal and you're working for Gibson Dunn, and there's an end client involved most times. I think it's important to remember that communication, building teams, reaching end goal. We're all humans, and sometimes we lose sight of that.
So those emails or even a personal call, or back in the day, you'd walk by someone's office and really thank for their work. It was an all-nighter, or it wasn't an all-nighter. It was just, I want to thank you. Those little bits of kindness and gratitude are really important to team morale, and they produce better work product. And happier people causes people to feel more invested in what they're working on.
I think we spurred a question. Are you finding it harder these days, certain corporate clients, to fully staff cases the way you want, even if it's warranted due to budgetary concerns? If so, how do you go about that or discuss with the client why you need a larger team?
One of the areas where we often get pushback from clients is, oh, we see you having lots of internal calls, weekly internal calls. We don't want to pay for those. What we've explained is if we can't have that weekly or biweekly internal call, then that is going to necessitate multiple individual calls with individual other teams and so forth. And it will result in potentially more money, more hours, not just from those second calls, but because things are not as coordinated. People don't know what's going on, so they may go in a direction and they didn't realize that some other team member had already handled it. So it's just essential to have these kind of companies now all the time have like all hands meetings, right? We've explained that. Hopefully most of the time it works. We could just show in hours. If we can't do these kind of sync calls internally, this is how many hours we're going to have to spend doing it in an alternative way. And then in terms of actually staffing up number of people, if we're going to have less team members, then we need more of their time. So that means less sharing them with some other cases. So in times we've had to talk with other partners and clients and figure out ways to rejigger and have somebody spend more time on that particular matter that is more constrained from a budget perspective, because we get more of their time concentrated as opposed to having to split it amongst other more team members. I think it's tough. There's no easy answer to that. If everybody would be invested, you could get more out of the more limited people you have. So you're going to get more productivity even out of a smaller team.
Could you talk about the larger team you've helped manage?
Recent trade secrets matter that at one point had criminal components to it, also had a patent matter attend as part of it. I think we had 35 people at one point. Again, I'm including all the support staff as well. We were against another firm that I think had a similar number of people. A large matter that we did together, legal, and I'm thinking about, that had regulatory, criminal, civil litigation, class action. I'd say another maybe 25 or so. And then I've got teams of 4 and 5, but those larger ones can get very.
What is the most overlooked of great legal teams?
Even when things are really crazy and you feel like you cannot bear another minute, it's just faster for you to do it yourself. Stop and take the time, put in the time, because it will pay dividends later.
What is some advice you'd give younger associates, knowing what you know now?
My advice to younger associates is to knock on those doors, come into the office. You will not learn how to be a lawyer as well over Zoom and your phone as you will in person. If you are the master of the facts and well organized too, in forms of key documents and crons and key players lists, and really know that, you will become indispensable to your teams from a litigation perspective, right? You will be in the room, as I mentioned earlier, because you will be needed there. The idea is because if they have a quick question, they want to be able to ask you right then, and get invested in your matters. You will feel better. You will actually be practicing law rather than just doing legal tasks.
That's a great word, indispensable. Really good reminder.